Hello and welcome to Nice Again. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to my channel. We will now talk about the issues of tribalism in Gambia. We all know what's going on right now, and tribalism is a thing that has been brought up because of some circumstances which I'm not going to go into because I do not have the full details of it. And I heard people talking about audios, and to be honest, I didn't hear anything because nobody sent me anything. I try and stay out of gossip or anything else, but I have seen people's reaction towards what's been going on in regards to tribalism, and everybody seems to be in shock, some maybe even anger, which is understandable. Even if I'm not Mandingo, I'm still offended about the things that have been said on social media and also generally as a society. I wanted to speak about this today because tribalism has affected my life personally. My parents suffered from tribalism. Some of my family members, some of my friends that I know have been affected by tribalism. So this is not news. This is not something new. This has been going on for God knows how long. We have seen that tribalism does exist in Gambia, and my own story tells you that tribalism is not a thing for today. But the thing is, you would think that in 2020 we will not be going through something such as tribalism in Gambia, and not just in Gambia but Africa as a whole. It's really, really sad. We should really not be focusing on these things right now. What we should be focusing on is building our nation, building our countries, building each other up, because we are so broken. Africans, Black people, we are really broken. And we need to realize that, and we need to start building ourselves up, but building each other up, not tearing each other down. It really annoys me that in 2020, someone would look down on someone else because of their tribe. How dare you? Who do you think you are? This is like not just a Gambian problem, but we see this in Gambia a lot. I can't speak for other countries. I will speak about other countries in regards to how they inspired me in regards to tribalism. But when it comes to Gambia, people would look down on you because you are from a different tribe. People will think that they're better than you because they have a little bit more money than you. We have seen that all over for so long, and this is really not right. We have bad and good people in every tribe, every creed of human beings. We have that. So why do we think that we're better than someone just because we speak a different tongue to them, or because we're born in a different tribe? And then we're talking about racism. We want to be accepted by the whole world, and yet here we are tearing each other down, thinking that we're better than each other, but expecting racism to end. My last video was on racism, and I said that we need to start loving ourselves. We need to start appreciating each other. We need to start building each other up. But we're too busy. We're tearing each other down. In Gambia, if I can't get better than you, then you're not going to get better than me. This is the attitude that we have. I personally experienced this, and it wasn't until I got older, and I'm getting emotional about this because this really upsets me. Because growing up as a child, I shouldn't really be crying. I hate crying on camera, but just really, really, when I was a child and growing up in Gambia, I couldn't understand why my parents couldn't be together. I remember when I was young, I used to write my dad a letter. Every time I go to see my dad, I would write a letter. In the letters I've written to my dad, I would tell him how much I loved him, and I would then go on to tell him, and this started since I could start writing, and he used to say, "Hi Dad," and everything else, "I love you," trying to kind of sweet talk him. And then I will tell him that I feel embarrassed or resentment when I see my friends with their parents living with both their moms and dad, and I couldn't see my mother and father together. I used to write these letters to my dad all the time, from junior school until high school, and I think it stopped when I traveled to the United Kingdom. So I used to write him letters asking him to marry my mother because I want my parents to be together. I was really, really confused because when I see my parents together, they were like, so great together. My parents, despite the fact that they were not together, me growing up, when I see them, I didn't see anything but love. I just saw, how kind they were to each other. I have never had my parents say any bad words towards the other person while the other person is not there, or even if they're there. I've never experienced that, thank God. So I've always been very aware that my parents love each other. I knew that because I could see it. But I couldn't understand, why couldn't my parents be married? I couldn't understand that. As a child, it's so confusing not knowing why your parents are not together. It's so confusing if your parents go through divorce. But I was born without my parents being together. And so having to live with my mom and then not knowing my dad until I was like on the age of 5. How do you explain that to a child? Nobody explained anything to me. But over the years, I used to talk to my grandmother, my late grandmother, Fatu Cham. Duraga Dad, I miss you. I used to speak to her and tell her to tell me about myself. I used to tell her how I felt. She was the only one I told. I never told my mom, but I always told my grandmother. And she practically brought me on my grandmother because my mom used to work a lot. And I never really spoke to her about things. When I want to know something, I usually would go to my grandmother. Having those little chats with my grandmother, I then realized that my parents didn't get married because my dad's family did not approve of my mother because she was Mandingo. And imagine what that does to a child. Just imagine, there's always something at the back of your head that would think that, okay, maybe my mom's tribe is not good enough. But thank God, that same family of my father are the ones that made me realize how good Mandingos are. That's what I learned from that. And then the funny story. A few years ago, I started speaking to my mom about my grandparents, my great-grandparents. Just sometimes I would stay on the phone until midnight with my mother, or even like 2, 3 in the morning, just chatting to her about the good old days. And then I asked her, Mom, where's my great-grandparents from? And then she told me that her mother is from several ethnic group. And then she explained to me that even though that her surname is Jata, the story of my mother, it's something that when you hear the story, it will make you think about the whole tribalism issue and make you think, is it really right to discriminate another person because of their ethnic group? Remember, my Fulani family thought that my mom was Mandingo. And to this day, I regard my mother as a Mandingo. But here's the story. My mom, her surname is Jata. And her dad was born in Gunjur. But her great-grandfather, which is my granddad's dad, was not from Gunjur. Guess where he was from? Senegal. He was from Senegal. He was a fisherman, a poor fisherman. Came to Gunjur for greener pastures. He came there and he had 2 children, 2 boys. My granddad being one and my granddad's brother being the other. And his surname was Njai. So how did my mom end up with the surname Jata? Because when he went to Gunjur as a Wolof man, everybody used to praise him as Jata Njai. You would hear about it in Gambia. If you're Gambian, you know when your surname is Jata or when your surname is Njai, they say Jata Njai. It means lion, brave lion. They used to call him Jata Njai. And as my grandfather and his brother were growing up, my grandfather's brother decided to keep the Njai surname. My grandfather chose to call himself Jata. And his name was Pa Mamadou Jata. And so that's why my mother ended up with the surname Jata. My mom spoke Mandingo by default because her father went to live in Gunjur. And my granddad loved Mandingo people so much. Sorry, this gets me so upset. Sorry. My grandfather, Pa Mamadou Jata, may God rest his soul. I love that man so much. He loved Mandingo people so much. He loved them. And I don't know why But I think I get an idea because I have also met some of the most amazing people that I have come across in my life that are Mandingos. My granddad moved to Serakunda. He was given a huge land by the people that were running Serakunda in those days. And that was because his mother, by the name of Mariama Ture, was related to the Seredum and the Ture family in Serakunda. Those were the people that basically found Serakunda and basically owned it originally. When he moved to Serakunda, he had his children, my mother included, and everybody knew his name. Back in the days, if you hear Aren Mamadujata, you know that's my grandfather. He owned an Aren in Bundung, the one that I can last remember because I used to go there with my cousins to take him lunch. My mother explained that when they were growing up, my granddad did not allow my mom and her siblings to speak Wolof in the compound. And I'm so grateful because you can think about it and you can say, hey, then your granddad must be a tribalist. But remember, my granddad is originally Wolof and he didn't allow his children to speak Wolof in his compound. He wanted them to speak Mandingo because of him coming from Gunjur, and that's the only language he knew. And I am so grateful for him for that decision because Serakunda is a place where most people speak Wolof. I learned Wolof in Serakunda from school because everybody knows majority of people in Serakunda are Wolof. So he knew my mom and her siblings would learn Wolof anyway. If he hadn't spoken or allowed them to only speak Wolof in his house, they wouldn't have learned Mandingo. My mom and all her siblings all speak Wolof. And then their children, me and my cousins, we all speak Wolof because it's very, very saturated in Serakunda. If you live in Serakunda and you cannot speak even basic of Wolof, then you need to ask yourself a question of what's wrong with me, because everybody knows if you live in Serakunda, you will be able to speak at least some basic Wolof because it's the majority language for the population of Serakunda. And so you get the history. Now you know that my mom is not even originally Mandingo, but yet my Fulani family decided that a Mandingo woman was not good enough for their son. And then come to realize that she wasn't even Mandingo. But I'm guessing even if she was Wolof, she would have found herself in the same situation. According to my mother, it took time before my dad told my grandparents and his family about me. It took a few years because I didn't know them in the early years of my life, not like that. And then you can say, but hey, your auntie who is Fulani from your dad's side is married to a Mandingo. This is the other thing. In Gambia, we allow marriages to take place only when one of the parties, like if you're from different tribes, most of the time you will find that you're only allowed to marry a person from a different tribe because one thing, they're wealthy, they have money. The next thing, they have been to Europe or America, and then you'll be able to get a chance into marrying into another tribe. That's the reality of it. And then tribalism doesn't just happen between Mandingo and anybody else. It also comes from Mandingo people. Let's be honest. Because I have spent time at my auntie's house whilst I was young, and I have seen how the Mandingo family treated her every day. Garwale, problems, saga, all of those things, insulting, because she was a Fulani woman. They also didn't think she was good enough for their son. This is what we need to get rid of. It comes from everywhere. It comes from Mandingos, it comes from Wolof, it comes from Fulani, it comes from Serel, it comes from Jola, it comes from everybody. Because everybody thinks that they're better than another person because they're not their tribe. When are we going to start looking people from where they come from or what they look like and then accept them for who they are on the inside? I don't care if you're Mandingo, Jola, Serel, Fula, Sarahule, Wolof, Mandingo, Aku, Bambaran. Wherever you come from, I don't care. The most important thing is how you are on the inside. Are you a good person or are you a bad person? That's what I'm interested in. We go on to call ourselves Muslims and Christians, when God has also asked us that we shouldn't judge people. He will do the judging for himself. And yet we go on to judge people because they act differently, they speak differently, they look differently. Balanga they say, hey, hola sa kawami, kawaripol nga ame. Kawaripol. Look at my mother, my supposedly Mandingo mother's picture. Have you seen that? That was my mother's hair before she put relaxer on it. I wish I had that hair. I wish to God that I had the hair that my mother had. And she was supposedly Mandingo. We think that when we see someone, we can judge them who they are because we see the way they look. Hi, no, Paul, because as if it's only Fulani people that are supposed to have light skin there. Meet my sister Renata J. Yes, that's Renata Sajo Dame. They call her Renata. Before you say, oh, she has an English name, it's not English, it's German. Her mother named her after her German friend. My sister Sajo. Mother Mandingo. Father Mandingo. And she's light skinned because my great grandmother, Binta Sankare, had very light skin. And so some of my cousins came out light skinned, and even though their parents are dark. And even my sister, my sister and my brother, they have lighter skin tone than me. Yaoli and Esa, they have lighter skin tone than me because they take after our great grandmother, who comes from Sankarekunda in Lashakunda. Everybody knows that family. And so we need to stop saying, you know, because you look a certain way, you must be this or you must be that. We need to stop that. It doesn't matter how someone looks. It doesn't matter what they speak. It doesn't matter where they come from. It's so embarrassing to be talking about this in 2020 when we're fighting everything else in the world. We're fighting coronavirus and then we're talking about this issue. And I will tell you an experience I have had with Mandingos. When I was 7 years old, I hope I'm not going to cry because this one hurts me. I think I have gone through it on a previous video where I explained to you guys that I was starved as a child, which means I was punished with not giving me food and stuff like that. And that came from my Fulani family. When I was 7 years old, a relative from my dad's side of the family, I'm just not mentioning who they are because I want to save my father the embarrassment. He already knows about them. That's the most important thing because I have spoken this with him and he understands. So I'm going to save him from any more disgrace or embarrassment than he already feels already. But a family member from my dad's side came to my mother and said, we are really sorry for treating you the way that we did when I wanted to marry you. We are sorry that we got in the way of you marrying us. We are sorry that we got in the way of marrying you. We are sorry we got on the way of the love that you two had for each other. We are sorry that we interfered. They even went on to say, and I swear on my 3 children's lives, because I remember the day that person came to my mother. I was 7 years old. And even said that I am sorry because I took you and went to the marabouts to make sure that you didn't get together. I remember that. People think kids, when you're talking around children, be careful. Because children don't forget. Your brain is very sharp at that age. You know what people are saying. Even if you don't know it, when you hear it and you grow up, you will put 2 and 2 together and say, oh, this is what this means. I took Icy's father to the marabouts to make sure he did what I asked. And Dad finally said to my mother, I am very lonely at the house, at the compound. Our family home, the Fulani family home, is in Brikama. I am very lonely there. Nobody respects me anymore. Despite the fact that this woman arranged for my father to marry a distant family member, she was still complaining about that family member that she brought to my dad. She was telling my mom stories like, oh, she doesn't respect me, she doesn't listen to me, and she doesn't do blah, 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 blah. I need some company at home. My mother, being the forgiving person that she is, she accepted. My mom is not even forgiving. I think my mom is gullible. Because people would do some very shitty things and she will always forgive them. I don't know where she got that help from, but God bless her. She forgave that family member, despite all the revelation that family member made. And then to top it off, and oh my God, I spent years hating my mom on the secret for this, but I'm going to tell you now. My mom agreed to send me to live with that family member in Brikama. I remember the first day I got there, I cried like a baby. And the next day after that, I cried like a baby. I thought if I cried enough, they would send me back to my mom. I cried so much. Oh, this makeup is gonna be a mess by the end of this video. I shouldn't have put on this makeup. Oh my god. My mom forgave that family member and allowed me to go and live with them. I cry every day, wishing to be with my mom. I didn't care how poor my mom was. All I knew was I felt a lot of love there than I did when I was in Brikama. Oh, I think I need to calm down a little bit. I don't think I've ever done a video like this before. And then, this family member, she called me names whilst I was living there. Names that I do not wish to repeat. But I'll never forget them. She punished me. Sorry. I didn't know I would get this emotional. I didn't anticipate getting this emotional. Sandy M. Marina has been telling me to tell my story on tribalism a long time, and I never did. I guess this was why. Because it touches my heart. It really does. I felt like, I don't care if I'm gonna have tears, but I'm just gonna say what I needed to say. I felt like that family member took me to live with them so she could punish my mother for having a child with my father. That's how I feel, because the things she did to me was cruel. She starved me. And that's why everybody looks at me when I was younger and say, I see, you're wrong at it. Nobody knew. But the reason why I was so bloody, tiny, and bony when I was young was because my family member starved me. She starved me, and even when I was 9 years old and I ran away to my mother, it didn't just feel like my appetite came back, because I got used to controlling my hunger. I got used to controlling my hunger. So even when I went back to live with my mom, I could only eat a little bit and then I'm full, because I was not used to eating so much. When I did something wrong when I was living with that family member, she would say, today you will not have lunch because you'll be naughty. Today you will not have dinner because you will be naughty. Today you will not have lunch money to school because you'll be naughty. And that is why when I had my children, I promised myself that I would never punish them with food. That if they did something wrong, I will take away their tablets. I will tell them that they're not going to have their favorite dessert, but I will never stop them from having their lunch, their dinner, and their breakfast. If you're doing that to your children, stop. With the food, it didn't just stop with the food. She would beat me. I remember, if you live in Brikama and you don't, please get me in touch with her, because I've never had any contact with her since I left Brikama, and I will never forget it, because she was really good to me. When I was getting those treatments of not allowing me to eat, she was burned. If you ask her, she was burnt on her legs. Her whole legs were burned. I think she dropped some oil on it, and her whole legs were burned. And I remember every day after school, she would go with me to to her house and she would make up excuses after she had a band. So she would say, oh, teacher, oh, my legs, oh, I can't stay in class. Just so that the teacher can let her go home. The teacher would say, oh, do you want to go home now? Yes, but can I go with IC? So she can take me home. She can help me on the way. We used to say that 1 or 2 hours every day before school, just so that she lived in Brikama, Newtown. When I go to her house, we could have lunch, and then I will run back just in time to get back home before anybody notices that I need to finish school the same time as everybody else. And then the other people who stood up for me during that time, the Bojang Kunda family, everybody knows them as the Nimbo Fanta Bojang family. They used to live right opposite my house. But their game was on the other side, but they were literally opposite my house in Brikama. We had some kind of connection, not to lie. I had some connection with the Bojakuda family. My grandmother, who I mentioned earlier, Fatu Cham, she's a serial. She was, but I would say this, my grandmother, my grandfather on my mom's side, they were really poor, really, really poor. And so when Dembo Fantaboja, everybody knows Dembo Fantaboja, he was the owner of the Gambian National Lottery in Gambia. Despite how rich that man was, he asked my poor grandmother, my serial grandmother, Fatu Cham, to be his premier jeke at his wedding. And this is the other thing as well. When we're getting married, when we have things to do, we always look at our rich friends. But here is Dembo Fantaboja or Brikaba asking my grandmother, who was just a poor woman who used to sell peanut butter in the market in Sarakunda, not even a market, a small market in Sarakunda, and ask that woman he was not related to or anything to be his premier jeke at his wedding. It shows you, I wanted to say this because it shows you how humble some people are. It shows you that people who shouldn't look down on others just because they're better than them or just because they have a little bit more money than them. Dembo Fantaboja did not have any reason to make my grandmother his premier jeke at his wedding. She had nothing, she wasn't related to him. But he chose her out of the goodness of his heart and also out of the fact that he humbled himself enough to let a poor woman be his premier jeke for his wedding. And this is what we miss a lot of us in Gambia. When we have a little bit of money, we think we're better than everybody else. When we're from a different tribe, we think we're better than everyone else. You're not. So let's stop looking down on each other because we have a little bit of money. This is the attitude we have that we need to get rid of. And then to continue with the Bojan Kuta family. They stood up for me, and I thank them, and I'll forever be grateful to the Nembo Fanta family in Brikama. And these are Mandingos and Jolas. If anyone who lives in Brikama would know this name, Dindo Fantaboja. She used to sell in the Brikama school, and she was also one of the people that used to give me free lunches. And also the mother of Musa Sade of Brikama from Sade Kunda. They used to live behind us. And she didn't know at the time what was going on, but when I used to go to school, she would give me food for free because she always joked that I was her son's wife, or wife-to-be, from Sami Kunda. So I thank you, Sami Kunda. I thank you, Bojan Kunda, especially because Bojan Kunda stood up for me more than I can ever think of. They stood up to my family that were abusing me at the time. And I remember Binto fought for me so much so that some of my family members from my dad's side of the family stopped speaking to her to this day. They used to stand up for me. And these were supposedly Mandingo and Jola. Well, the both this mom, Ajaratu Fantajaju, was of Jola heritage. And the both himself is Mandingo. So, I told you this story because we need to stop looking at where people are from to judge them on how we think this one is best. Because it just goes to show you that at the end of the day, the most important thing is how good you are on the inside. And this is why I would love Mandingo people for the rest of my life, and I will always be grateful to them. And so when I see someone making fun of them or thinking they're better than them, it pisses me off. It pisses me off because they are some of the best people I have ever met in Gambia. We have good and bad everywhere. But Mandingo people in Gambia, oh, I love them. I love them, and I'm so grateful that my granddad, who was of Wolof origin, decided that he would stick with the Mandingos and allowed his children to learn the Mandingo language. Sorry, I need to do this video. I can't stop because I'm crying. I just need to do this because this touches my heart. It really does. Tribalism hurts me because I am a victim. And there's so many victims of tribalism in Gambia. So many people who suffered because of tribalism. I love Swahili. So many of you will see me speaking the Tanzanian language called Swahili on my Facebook. You know why Swahili was created? Swahili, up until a couple of years ago, I used to think that he was an ethnic group. Artist Diamond Platinum spoke Swahili. But then I realized that he was not from the Swahili tribe. I was so confused. I asked, how come he speaks Swahili, but he's not Swahili? And then I came to learn that the language Swahili was made up so that it could bring Tanzanians together because there was so much tribalism at the time. And so the language was created, and the background of it is Bantu, a little bit of Bantu and Arabic mixed together. And then they came up with the language Swahili. So when you hear Swahili, it's not a tribe. It's a language, and only a language. And it was brought into the East African region because there was so much tribalism. They brought the Swahili language so that every tribe could speak Swahili. So it could bring people together so that when people speak, people still speak their own languages there. But majority, everybody in Tanzania, for example, they have different tribes and they all have their own languages, but they all speak Swahili. So obviously there's no discrimination. Everybody is even their official language in their country. So everybody speaks Swahili in Tanzania because there was so much tribalism going on at the time. And when I heard that, I love Swahili even more. When I heard it, it sounded familiar, and I think that's because of the Arabic. I'm not sure about the Bantu bit, but the Arabic bit out of it, things like Habari Gani, things like that, the Kupenda Sana, it sounds familiar. Asante, things like that. It sounded familiar. And then I learned that it was a little bit of Arab and a little bit of Bantu language. Bantu is an African language, and so they mixed it together so that it can bring people together. And I think we would need this maybe someday in Gambia. I'm not hoping for anything, but we need to come together. We need to start appreciating each other for who we are. We shouldn't look at who has what, who is from where. We should just love each other. If you're thinking about discriminating against another tribe, I would ask you to think this. Think about that little girl. Think about how she felt growing up, not having her parents together because her mother was supposedly, and I say this supposedly, Mandingo, because my mom is not even original Mandingo if you look back into her background. And this is how stupid tribalism is. It's so silly. It doesn't make no sense. So I'm pleading with you because I really didn't think that another child would go through what I had to go through. Growing up without my parents being together simply because they have different tribes. It's not something we should be going through in the 20th century. This is 2020 people. You had Pablo Dramatic. Oh, Gambia. Gambia, peace, love, and unity. Let's embrace each other. We want to fight racism, but we don't want to get rid of tribalism. Before racism can go, let's get rid of tribalism first, actually, in Africa. That should be your priority because you can't expect other people to love you if we, within ourselves, hate each other. That doesn't make no sense. Let us start. I told you last time on my video, 2 days ago, I posted a video about racism. It starts with us. We need to love ourselves. We need to appreciate each other. We need to love each other. ST said this in one of his songs, and I love it. Even more appreciate, appreciate. So you also cannot expect other people to appreciate you if you don't appreciate each other the way that you are. We are all one black family. We are all one African. And so we should act the same way and say no to tribalism. No to people treating people differently. No. It's enough. We are tired. I don't want to see any more ICs growing up not being able to have their moms and dads together because of tribe. So many people go through this in Gambia, not being able to marry the people they love because of tribe. So many people being looked down on because of tribe. So many people going through a hard time because of tribe. And then, to top it off, you have xenophobia. Xenophobia is in Gambia there. Because last year, when I went to the CRRC meeting, which my friends, the same friend that encouraged me to be doing this tribalism video for years, said, okay, Marina invited me too. And when I went there, I was shocked to see Gambia standing up, who are living in the UK here, standing up at the CRRC and saying things like, well, the Constitution needs to make sure that our passport, just because somebody is born in Gambia doesn't mean they should get our passports. You are living in England, and you idiot are standing there and saying that you're living in another man's country, but you're saying to your government, please have a constitution that can say that just because you're born in Gambia doesn't make you Gambian. How dare you?
How dare you at this what this is directed at Senegalese, Guineans, people from Sierra Leone, people from Nigeria. Those are the people you're talking about. Those are the immigrants in the country. Yes, some people misuse the system to get papers, to have Gambian passports. But what you should be saying to the Constitution is, can you make sure we have no corruption in the immigration offices? That is the main question that you should be asking. That's the thing that you should be telling them. Tell them, have a system where it's not going to be easy for somebody to just work in and pay someone, few hundreds or even thousands just to get the Gambian passport and is given to them. You should fight the corruption in the government first, in the system, in the immigration system. That's where you start. You can't say, oh, just because someone is born. If somebody comes from Senegal and they have a child in Gambia, that means their child is not supposed to be Gambian. My granddad was from Senegal, and this is what makes it so disgusting. You're there talking about, oh, Senegalese this, Senegalese that, and most of you are related. If you don't know, then check your background, because maybe deep down, some of your great-grandparents or some of your grandparents came from Senegal. Don't you know that? My granddad is one of those people. His father was one of those people. Yes, my granddad was born in Gambia, but his father was Senegalese. And so when I see Gambians talking about Senegalese, or when I see Senegalese talking about Gambians, it hurts me. Let's stop discriminating against each other because of where the land that we're born, because we don't even know whether we have family in Senegal, whether we have family in Gambia. Let's stop that nonsense. Let's stop loving each other. Gambia and Senegal, remember, they were one country. Before the British and the French came in, they colonized us. They destroyed our land. They took our people. So what we should be focusing on is how we are going to be, coming together. Not destroying each other. Not looking down on each other. We're all one. And that's why it pisses me off. When I see Gambia talking about Senegalese, it hurts me. Because, hey, suma mama ma Senegalese la. So, bul saga Senegalese yi. Te Senegalese buy saga Gambia tam, bul saga Gambia ni suma mama ma fofu lam jógee. How dare you? Let's love each other, for God's sake. Let's be one. Let's unite. United we stand, divided we fall. Tribalism has no place in Gambia. It's very old. It's very, very old. One of the reasons my father allowed me to marry a white man is because my dad knew how it felt to not be able to marry someone you love. Yes, that marriage didn't last, but still, what is more important is the fact that my parents didn't stop me.
When I took my children to the Gambia, I took them to the place where I was abused and took pictures of them in the spots that held my darkest memories. I did this to bring myself closure and also hoped that it will help me make new and happy memories of these places. When I was very young, I had visions, and I would tell my grandmother on my mother's side. She always believed me and was proud. When I went to live in Brikama and started telling my family member my visions, I was shamed, beaten, threatened, and called a witch. One day I told my cousin that I felt my uncle was going to die, and they told an adult family member. I was promised a beating after his funeral, and so instead of grieving for him, I spent sleepless nights praying to God to help me take these visions and intuitions away. And it is the first time I remembered my prayers being answered, because my visions stopped. And that taught me one thing: be very careful of what you pray for. And these pictures actually brought me some kind of closure. In this picture that you're seeing right now, I am on the veranda where I had my last vision. And on this picture, I'm feeding my daughter, because this was the very veranda where I was forced to watch my cousins eat whilst I was starved. And on this picture, with my daughter in the backyard, it takes away the memories of the place where I was raped and beaten. And the next picture gives me a view of the place where Binto Fantabojang stood up for me and was ready to fight my abusers. I would always be grateful to the Bojang Kunda family for standing up for me, for supporting me, and for giving me their love. Thank you. Thank you at Ollie's Creation for this beautiful outfit. It's actually purple, but it came out as blue during editing due to lighting.